Hi guys, welcome to the SAT Prep Slayer. I'm your host, Cameron Scott Kirk, and I'm here to help you slay the SAT. I have been teaching literacy for more than 30 years, and I've picked up quite a few things on my way. Today, I'm here to help you improve your writing score in the SAT. We're looking at something called Subject Verb Agreement, which I believe is the most fundamental aspect of getting a good score in the SAT writing. And we're looking at Subject Verb Agreement in relationship to prepositional phrases. So, prepositional phrases, Subject Verb Agreement, here we go. All right, let's start by asking the question, what is a prepositional phrase and how does it affect subject-verb agreement? The first thing in a prepositional phrase is what's called a preposition. Here are 5 common examples of preposition: in, on, at, for, and of. You'll have seen these words many times before. Any of these words followed by a noun, you have a prepositional phrase. So let's look at down here. The definition of a prepositional phrase is a preposition plus a noun or pronoun. Here are 3 examples. In my hand, preposition in, noun my hand. On the weekend, preposition on, noun of the weekend. For you, preposition for, pronoun you. Now, prepositional phrases are often focused on time, on the weekend, on Monday, in summer, or place. Behind you, in front of me, next to the bag, in my hand, under the desk, and so on. Prepositional phrases are very common, but these 5 prepositions are not the only ones. There are many more. Check out this video.
The plane flew above the cloud, behind the cloud, around the cloud, below the cloud, beneath the cloud, beside the cloud, beyond the cloud, into the cloud, near the cloud, outside the cloud, over the cloud, past the cloud, through the cloud, toward the cloud, under the cloud, and finally dived underneath the cloud.
Oh, that was exciting. Now, getting back to prepositional phrases here. Take a look at the sentence down here. A box, this is where we're looking, a box of books under my bed. Should we put are under my bed or is under my bed? At first glance, books looks like a plural noun, so books are. It's a nice match. Once you identify of books as a prepositional phrase, you can rule it out as a subject. The rule is any noun following a preposition is the object of that preposition and therefore cannot function as a subject. We'll come back to that rule. We now have the subject a box, singular. You wouldn't say a box are, you would say a box is. This is why you need to identify prepositional phrases. They can interfere in matching your subjects and verbs. Here's another example. In summer is hot. Now you might be thinking, that's weird. You're right in thinking that. As I've mentioned, in summer, that looks exactly like a prepositional phrase. Preposition in, summer, noun. Therefore, summer cannot be used as a subject in the sentence. Therefore, the sentence in summer is hot has no subject. But I can easily fix that. Take away in, now we have summer is hot. Now it makes sense. Put in back in, whoops, no subject in the clause, in the sentence. Take in out, summer is hot. So, here's the rule, boys and girls. A noun in a prepositional phrase does not function as a subject. It does not. Now, here's the next sentence we're looking at. A group of my friends is coming over today. Now, it looks weird, doesn't it? Friends is. My friends is coming over today. In that context, it is wrong. However, look at the preposition of. My friends. This therefore becomes a prepositional phrase. Rule it out as a subject. The subject is now a group. S for subject. Is coming over. That's a match. So the sentence, a group of my friends is coming over today, is weird, but correct. All right, let's do an example from the SAT many years ago. This format no longer exists, but it's good for teaching. Look at sentence 26. I would like you to identify, if you can, a prepositional phrase in the first line. Can you see it? If you've said by several scientists is a prepositional phrase. You are right. So scientist cannot be the subject for suggest. The subject is research. The verb is suggest. Is that a match? Does that agree? It doesn't. Research is singular. So you need to add a little old s on suggest to actually make it correct. So by identifying this prepositional phrase, you have now seen the error in the subject-verb agreement. Well done. Here's question 5 from another test. I think this is the test between the old one and the new one. They updated it for a few years between 2016 and 2023. Again, it's still useful for learning. Can you spot the prepositional phrase? There it is, of comic books. So books, comic books, cannot function as a subject in this sentence. Therefore, what is the subject? Well, reveal is the verb, isn't it? Going back here, the subject must be somewhere at the front of the sentence. It is a published history. Singular. Now, a history reveal doesn't sound right off the tongue. Go down to B. A recently published history of comic books. Ignore that. Reveals. Now we have agreement between the subject and the verb. A recently published history reveals that Batman began as an experiment. B is the correct answer. So it's super, super duper important that you identify prepositional phrases so you can rule them out as subjects. Next example from the updated SAT. Remember, you have to identify the subject, and one of the ways you can do that is by ruling out nouns in prepositional phrases. Ignore the first sentence, doesn't really affect this question. Go down to the sentence beginning, such quotidian objects. That's where we are. Now, you'll see a comma here and a comma here, and a lot of information in here is in the form of prepositional phrases in exquisite detail by Vermeer. Then we have another comma, and we have a painter celebrated for his naturalism. Again, we haven't got to the verb yet. We're still looking for a verb. Here are the options down here. None of this information can be considered a subject because it's all prepositional phrases. Rule it out. This is just an appositive phrase giving us more information about Vermeer himself, but we still don't have a subject. We'll go back to the start of the sentence. Quotidian objects. That is the subject. Objects is plural, so between C and D, what would you choose to match up to quotidian objects? Of course, it's going to be reveal. Our last example here from the modern SAT. You can ignore the first sentence. We're down to the sentence beginning, the trailblazing accomplishments. Now, can you see a prepositional phrase up top? Sure you can. There we go. Ignore that. Comma, winner of the 2023 Nobel Prize in Economics for her work on women in the labor force. Quite a few prepositional phrases in there. Again, we need a verb. You can ignore all that. The verb's coming up in the gap. So we have to have a subject before we get to that verb. It's not golden. It's not 2023 Nobel Prize, and it's not economics because they're all following prepositions. Ignore that. The subject therefore becomes the trailblazing accomplishments, plural. So if you're looking at A and D, which one's going to match to accomplishments? It's going to be D. Well done if you spotted that. Now, let's do a little exercise here. There are 3 questions on the board. You should be able to see pretty quickly which one focuses on subject-verb agreement. It has a prepositional phrase in it trying to disguise the relationship between the subject and the verb. So if you're looking at 19, you're on target. To survive when water is scarce, that's an infinitive phrase, ignore that. Embryos, inside African turquoise killifish eggs. There's the prepositional phrase. So the subject, these are the verbs coming up. There's going to be a verb in there. What's left in terms of the subject? There's only one thing. It's the embryos, plural. A, enter. Well done. Now, just to finish this off on prepositional phrases, in case you're thinking they're isolated, they're not isolated. They comprise a huge part of written English and spoken English too. Look at the two sentences on the board. I'm going to give you a number, and it's 8. There are 8 prepositional phrases in these two sentences alone. Way, way more than 50% of the sentence is made up of prepositional phrases. See if you can find them. Pause the video if you want to. If you don't want to pause, let me point them out to you. Here we go. Along as a preposition. 3 in the first sentence. In keeping for all kinds of creatures, from the huge tar pond to the tiny shrimp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 prepositional phrases. They are everywhere in English. Well, I hope that clarified a few things in terms of subject-verb agreement and prepositional phrases. Remember, the SAT College Board is your enemy. I am your friend. Join me for my next episode where I delve into more obscure grammar that the SAT College Board simply love and think is very important. But I'm here to help you avoid the pitfalls and traps. That's what I do. See you next time. Bye-bye.